All right.
Back.
Here we are. Part 2, episode 8, part 2.
Yeah.
Episode 8, part 1 wasn't introduced as such because we didn't realize until a while into it that we're probably going to break it up into 2 spots.
Yeah, exactly.
But we wanted to give the proper time for such a special occasion for us, honestly.
Exactly, yeah.
It's our album release. It's a really big deal. We've been working on this for a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
The album
Over a year,
itself.
man.
Oh yeah, well over a year. Well over a year. And a lot of these moments are going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But the actual physical album, like from when we very first even went into the studio, it's been forever. So it's a big deal, man. It's real. We worked really hard to get to this point, and there's nothing wrong with celebrating that a little bit and enjoying this whole process.
It's true.
So we found it fitting that, hey, let's take our time on this one. Let's make this a 2-parter. We also don't want you guys to have, an hour and 50 minutes again. You kind of, daunting staring at you. With the Jeremy Nishaw one, we didn't want to break it up. We didn't want to lose the flow of what we were doing. But with this one, we're more than happy in recording it in 2 parts and giving you guys 2 digestible pieces of 1 episode to listen to.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we wanted it to run smooth. So if you checked out the last podcast, thank you so much.
I assume you probably did.
Part 1.
Yeah. Thanks for checking out
But we're going to be
part 1.
chatting about more of the same is kind of what I'm getting at here.
And if you see this in your feed as the most recent episode, go listen to episode 1 first. Before you do this, hit pause, hit stop, go back, find not episode 1, part 1 of episode 8,
Yeah.
just to clarify. Go back, find part 1. Yeah. It should be right before this in any feed, no matter where you're finding it, whether you're looking at this on our webpage or whether you're going to Spotify, iPods, the Apple iPod.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Wah.
So with all that being said, we were just chatting about
top 5s.
Our top 5s here, which we chatted about Kev and checking out. That
so
was
to recap,
your
it was the
number 1.
Day. Yep.
Your number 2 on that list was Taken Too Soon.
Going back in. And then they're not in any particular order, these other ones, to be honest. But those 2 were probably my locked in 1 and 2. They really were. So let's finish my top 5, and then we'll go to yours. The beauty of this is because it's about the album. I mean, a lot of ours are going to intertwine anyways, but sometimes like your top 5 indie artists might be a different list than mine, right?
Yeah.
And we'll give feedback on each other, but this is just a nice candid conversation between the 2 of us. And I think that's why it was important for us to do that into the same part 2 kind of thing. So we can talk about them in more detail. So any others that you want to guess before we move on to me giving the rest of the list? Because I'm curious what you think. I think I said there's 3, so you got 2 of them already.
So yeah, we talked about checking out. We talked about Taken Too Soon. Yeah. I think that another one on there is November.
No, November I didn't put on
That's
list.
Such a key moment.
It is a key moment. I'm guessing now you're revealing your whole list as you're guessing the ones on mine.
Well, I mean, those 2 that we already chatted about are on mine as well. And I'll briefly touch on them again and kind of do my take.
Yeah, even Taken Too Soon
on those days, right?
Even please don't be brief. I want to hear what your take was on Taken Too Soon.
Exactly.
Too, yeah.
So yeah, no, that's kind of interesting. But there's 2 more that you said that I could probably guess.
Yeah.
So
do you want any hints? 2 of them are very recent. 1 of them was a long time ago.
I feel like
2 of them were post-studio. 1 was pre-studio.
And I feel like one of them is probably getting our album for the first time, like the physical copy of the album. Actually, you know what? It might not even be on the top 5 list. But I think what is on the top 5 list is listening to the album for the very first time.
That's the other one I thought you'd get.
We sat down.
Yep.
Everything turned off. Both of our phones turned off. Just off to the side.
Like straight up. I think I actually powered mine off just to no distractions.
Exactly. And then just listening to the album start to finish, every single song and how it flowed together.
Yeah.
Getting wrapped up in the emotion of having it done and making this awesome piece of art.
It was real now. It was already mastered by Doug, but he wanted to send it to us, so we heard it first. It was finished, ready to send off to the actual manufacturer to make this 525 CDs we bought.
Yeah.
Ready to upload onto DistroKid for what's coming out on Friday. All of it. It was done.
Yeah.
And listen, I told you at the time, but we listened to, so the first song is That Won't Do, and that was amazing hearing it. Just 1, 2, 3, you coming in the whole way we planned it. But then on top of that didn't get me. It was the pause for a couple seconds, and then Parachute starts out.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, my eyes, anyone knows me knows I don't cry. I'm like a robot. I think I was all cried out with a lot of shit that happened early in my life. So now as a grown up, I'm just like, there's nothing else to cry about anymore. And I got welled up, like my eyes, like I was fighting back tears because it was real. It was just a real album now. This isn't just a single. This isn't a song making back in Ontario or anything. Like, this isn't us doing That Won't Do, in 2019 and making it in my basement. Like, this is a real album, and I was listening to it, and we made it. Like, it was so cool. It gives chills right now even remembering that still. So yeah, 100%. You 100% got that one.
So that one's on there for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what else I could guess, honestly.
All right. So the next one also was another one recently. It was when the album artwork was officially finished. And that's kind of a cumulative, like that was a multiple week process. I'm proud to say, even with the non-graphic artist I came up with the design and the thought of everything you see when you hold that physical album. I did all that. Kevin Bartlett at River City Design, our graphic design guy that does our webpage, he made that a reality. So it's impossible without him. But like I designed the actual album cover, which I'm so proud of, like beyond words.
It's cool, man.
That almost made the list,
and it inspired some merch that we have now.
Absolutely, it did.
Right, it's cool.
It's super, super cool. But the actual album itself, we used inspirations from Holly. I wanted to make sure it was all perfect, and I even down to like the inside cover where the actual CD comes out. Like it has like the Loop Infinity logo to show the big supporters in the Indiegogo, and then all the other Indiegogo supporters that are in there. So if anyone's name's in there, if your name's not in there, just so we're very, very clear, it wasn't from any lack of caring or respect. This isn't we want to thank these people and only these people list. It was just a straight up, how do we thank the people that contributed to our Indiegogo and help make this album a reality by donating money out of their pockets to something that was just a dream at that point. It wasn't real yet.
Absolutely.
That's amazing that people did that and helped to make it real. So we wanted to just give them that courtesy and respect. And if anyone remembers, you had to pay $5 just to get your name in there because we wanted to do it as like a legal disclaimer. So we're not just putting people's names in arbitrarily.
Exactly. Yeah.
But all of that was all my ideas. And that was, I'm proud of that, man. It took a lot of time.
It was a lot of work that you put into that for sure. And dude,
it was crazy.
There were so many times as well along the way that you're not necessarily glossing over, but I mean, dude, like you came up to me and asked me if this was okay or this was okay.
Yeah.
And you were like asking for my permission with it. And I'm like, dude, I trust you. Like, keep going. Like, unfortunately, like I've got too many things on my plate as we break things up.
Totally.
Where I've got other stuff to worry about and getting us gigs right now that I can't worry about the album artwork. Yeah. So I trust your gut, dude. Like, whatever you're going to do, I know that it's going to be awesome. You just knock it out of the park. And
like, I'm holding it in my hand right now and I'm even looking at it. And man, it's so cool. Like, I'm super cool. Proud of it. It inspired one of my all-time favorite albums,
and it's like one of those like paper cover.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like
it's not like a tacky CD that you can find at your dollar store.
Absolutely,
or something like that.
And then even like the spine, we got the LooPS logo on there, and like it's just the whole thing came out. It couldn't have done better. I'm so proud of it.
And the physical CD itself looks pretty cool.
It looks wicked. Yeah, man. All of it. Like it's. I've said before, if this is still technically, like, and this is something we've learned in this process, until you're actually your CD's produced by a major label, that's your debut album. Like this isn't technically our debut album, because until a major label has mass produced it
and put their
nobody
stamp on
gives
it.
a shit. Like, it doesn't count. Yeah. So this is still by all
as indie as we can get.
This is indie. This is indie band album. Yeah. It's still a demo until a major studio does it, but maybe that's, unless you actually get signed to a major label, then that's not an relevant factor anyways. But if it's a demo or it's an indie album, it's the best damn one that physically exists out there. Like, I will take that to my deathbed. No one put out one that is the quality of how this looks. So I'm so proud of that. And that for sure made my top 5 is when it was done. Physically getting them that day and taking them out of the thing.
It was getting the album.
I guess it was that one. Album artwork finished.
Yeah.
Getting,
sure. I don't know. It all kind of like
bleeds together.
Yeah, exactly. Into one.
It was the whole thing, finishing it and actually having it done. But you're right, physically getting the CDs, I guess, was the culmination.
I don't know. That's kind of just like a little kid on Christmas, though. That's kind of what it felt like.
Well, you hear my voice in the video we posted on Instagram, right? And I'm so excited. And then the last one was pre-album, pre-physically recording it in the studio. It's an early memory. This is January 2020, and we had written One More Story, and you had put like 2 days straight of like harmonies and lots of layers into
so
this
much
whole,
work.
So
and
much
I
work.
went
dude.
through
two-
like Ableton
Oh
so
my
I could
God.
like properly record it
Yeah.
and map out the song and all this kind of stuff
like a lot of work, like more than you guys have any clue.
with like strings and
Oh, man.
like 3-part harmonies in there, and it was like a guitar song originally.
and all these harmonies, and oh man, it was crazy. And the girl I was seeing at the time, I sang it to her a cappella, and she had this is the song that I wrote for my granddad who passed away, and my dad spent some time with him at the very, very, very end when for a couple of days before Granddad Roy passed away. And the biggest thing was just kind of like, I wish I had more time, right? And I just was inspired by their story as well, just like that. At the end of the day, when you're in that moment with someone that you love and care about, and they're leaving, you don't care about anything else. All you wish is I had more time. I wish, just tell me more stories, like, because when you're gone, those are gone too.
Yeah.
And I sang the song, but there was no accompanying all the layers that you had made.
Yeah.
And it was such a huge leap of faith and trust. But I went and without even telling you, got our Yamaha piano that we bought and we own now as a band together.
Yeah. The MX88.
MX88. Yep. And I was like, I talked to Thane, a good buddy of ours that works at Long McQuaid. I'm like, dude, get me like something that's awesome for recording, but then we can still play live and it's just as good live. He's like, there's a lot to ask on a piano. It's either going to be great live and you can record, or it's going to be great recording, but then it's not as good live. He's like, it's going to cost more, but this is the one to do then. If you want both of those things, this is the guy. So like, all right, done. So I brought it home and I was like, John, I got good news and bad news. I'll never forget it, in this exact living room.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got you a piano. And you're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's for us. It's for the band. And you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And you were so excited. It was like Christmas for you.
Of course.
And I'm like, the bad news is we need to literally scrap everything you've done with one more story.
Exactly.
All of it. Throw it in the garbage.
Literally take everything that you worked over the last like week on, and
all of it.
Well,
like
here's
the garbage.
Here's the thing: is like you wrote the lyrics and the melodies to what I had already put down.
Oh yeah, 100% I did.
So it's not that like you couldn't like do it the way that I had it. It's just like, this is the better way.
Yeah.
This is the better version that this song is
100%.
going to be.
I was like, I just feel that this song needs to feel even more vulnerable and painful and heavy. And it's only going to work if it's just me, you, and a piano. And you're like,
And I'm like,
that's
Guy?
a huge ask. And you're so excited about the piano. You're like, okay, cool.
I know.
Sure.
It worked.
But I think
It worked.
It was an elaborate
Exactly.
scheme and it paid off. But all jokes aside, I mean, there was still trust there. You had to trust that my opinion that, hey man, like I can bring someone to the table here too. Like I know you're a music genius, but like I know what I'm doing too. And I feel that this is what this song needs. We always talk about me being the heart and you being the brains of LooPS. And I'm like, my heart thinks that this is the way it needs to be.
Right.
And yeah, you trusted me, and it's still like it's probably our most brilliant song when it comes to actually like the song itself. Like it's a next level song. And yeah, it wasn't possible if you didn't trust me. It wasn't possible if I didn't sing that a cappella. And that, yeah, so to me that was a huge moment for us. It was pre-album, but it was that's a key song. That's a core song on the album.
Which I mean, even that's a nice segue because you know that song on the album was the very last song that we ended up recording. Kevin kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, how we originally recorded that in like this like massive
In the
theater,
church. Yeah,
right, where everything had to be so quiet and nobody could make one sound. I mean, there was 5 or 6 of us who were there.
When there's like a half a dozen mics all mic'd up to the grand piano.
Yeah. But nobody could make a sound. And I mean, it was stressful because I mean, like the way that we play that song live and the way that we've always kind of played it is I'm feeding off of what you're doing. Right. So we're trying to bounce off of
just
one
like
another.
I feed off my vocals off of your instrumental a lot. You take the lead in the song. This one is the one where I'm lead.
It's
in
not
that
like
dance.
we couldn't do it because I did do it in the theater.
Absolutely.
And I was able to like get through it, but the feel wasn't there. So then that kind of messed up the vocals. And then it was just like slightly off where it's just like, we need to fix this. We need to fix something to make it different. And then Doug was like, you know what? I just got a brand new Rhodes in.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, I found it on like Facebook Marketplace and the guy didn't know that it was worth thousands of dollars and it's like $150 is what he got it for.
Like a bonkers steal.
Yeah, exactly. So it's on the super, super cool old school piano.
Which is so cool because the feel of it too, it just kind of felt a little different. And it felt like just, I don't know, man, like I even said like just the actual what we ended up using for it digitally was like it kind of almost had like that kind of sticks. Doug kind of pointed that out too, feel and vibe. Yeah. And this is, my dad says it all the time. He always makes the Yesterday Ed Sheeran kind of let it be. He always makes that joke, but this is his song. And you know, if there's a song from my dad on this album, it's that one. We both know that. We both feel that.
But one of the coolest parts of making that song too, even cooler than the Rhodes, which is like my whole thing, right? I'm always cool about the instruments and all the kind of weird shit going on. But actually, like the way that we recorded that was live. Like we performed that together at the same time. So you were recording in the vocal booth while I was playing, and I was in your ears and you were in mine. Well, so we were able to go strictly like through it.
Well, we even moved the piano so it was against the window, like near the window, and we didn't look at each other once the entire performance.
No, but it's like I knew that you were there.
I knew you were there. You knew I was there. I could see you out of my peripherals. It felt like we were on the stage. It felt more just natural for us, and I think that might have changed even how we record album 2, like how we do more things. I think it's just what we're good at. Where live performances are our best part of what we do. It's kind of cool because that's what Jeremy talked about too, right? He's like, yeah, my album just feeds my live performances. I appreciate that because that was the best version of us, was doing that song together. And you said yourself to me separately that was probably your favorite part of the album itself, was us doing that one take, because that was a one taker. We didn't have to. We were like at the end, we're like, do we even need to do it again? Everyone's like, no. Like I think we got. Well, and then
that's the thing, right? Like we were like ready to do it again if we needed to. And I think that's what led into like such a long day, because that was on the very last day that we were in the studio.
Oh yeah,
we were in there probably for already 8 hours, and then we decided that
easy 8 hours.
We were going to redo it that night. So then we recorded it, we redid it, and then Doug's like, okay, cool, I'll come back to it later. Right. So then we kind of put that one off to its side, and then ended up doing the rest of the stuff. But I mean, it was probably only like half an hour, maybe 45 minutes from the time that we started recording.
Yeah, 100%.
Like One More Story.
Well, because we had
or at least setting it up or whatever.
Because there was other things that we knew we needed to do and work on that day, but it was like, hey, we you know, this is something that's important to us. We want the album to feel authentically us. We want to be proud of every single song, all 11 of them, not just 6 of them, and then 5 of them we're okay with.
Yeah.
So we wanted to fix that. We were fine doing it the next day. We were fine doing it that night, but it just it came out so perfect, and it's the way it needed to be. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Does that wrap up your top 5 there, dude?
There is. I wanted to give my honorable mention shout out.
Oh, okay.
That was there, which was you finding Morning Girl in spring of 2020. We'd been playing together for a while. We were already in COVID lockdowns, and
we were.
So we'd already been a band for like as the actual LooPS for half of a year at least. Let alone like playing together for like way over a year at that point together. And we were going through, you had mentioned this in part 1, you know, it kind of almost annoys you because I always eye roll when I talk about like my Ravi R&B days, but you're like, no man, there's some genius in that stuff.
Yeah.
And we were playing some old stuff just one night, having some drinks as roommates and jamming and doing music stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, this is some stuff. And you're like, what's this? Morning Girl? I'm like, oh, it's just a throwaway. I remember that. And I played it through the Bluetooth, and you were like, wow, like this is a really good song, dude.
I'm like, why did you throw this away? like, why?
I don't know.
Why is this so buried, dude?
It was just me on the guitar playing.
Well, because you also weren't confident in your like guitar ability, so you're just like, I don't know. It's just a closure song that I wrote
about Jill Smith,
10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, and you're like, can I fart around with it? I'm like, of course you can. And you got what you do. Like you're like obsessed with it. And you're like, oh, I can't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
And you came back, and like a few days later or whatever it was, you're like, dude, like listen to what this is like on the piano.
But the thing is like when I came back with it, I'm like, I'm not trying to rewrite your song at all.
100%.
I'm just changing like a couple things here and there and just rewriting it on piano,
which I didn't even care.
Right,
but
where I'm like, I'm singing it so you understand where I am. No, I didn't. Not even one.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm just singing it so you can hear what I'm doing.
Yeah. So then you played it, and I was like, honestly, I like it better. I like it with you singing it. Like, I think that's awesome. And just the feel, you caught what the song was. You caught lightning in a bottle with it, and played it on piano, and it's in the album, and it's one of our great songs. I love that song. I think it's so great now. But it was important for me because it was early enough still in us that I was confident in what I could do as a writer, but it really showed me that like, no, like this has always existed in me. This isn't a new thing that I'm just finding now. Like I just need to give myself a little more credit that like I'm better than I gave myself credit for. Like in that moment, I was like, I've always kind of had that. It's been there. It just hasn't. No one's had a chance to see it yet.
Which is kind of like Taken Too Soon,
which I really loved.
Because you know what? Like
because I was older too.
We worked on Taken Too Soon actually in the. Oh man, when was it? It was in the fall, I would say, of 2019.
Yeah, 100% fall
when
of
we worked
2019.
it.
Yep.
Or like fall / like early winter.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
Yep.
And we were working on that song just because we were trying to go through old stuff. And,
Absolutely.
you know, find like other ways of coming back to whatever we felt we needed to have at the time.
Yep.
Right. And like we did it so differently then. And then I remember back in the summer when we came back to it, it was like when we first started doing gigs again in like August of 2020.
Yep.
We did it like how we originally did it because we had like a little bit of help.
Yep.
Trying to change some stuff, but we were just like, let's do it like the way that we did it before.
Us though, without any outside. Yeah, we had a associate, like a colleague, like another musician that was like, here, try it this way, and we're like, sure, okay, and we're always open to that kind of stuff. So we tried it that way, and truthfully, in hindsight, like that way wasn't good. It wasn't us, and it wasn't authentic to us, and doing it the way we need. It was just another learning lesson. It was like, you know what? Everyone's got their feedback and their input, but we need to authentically be us.
Which is something that we took so long to kind of like learn because
really
I mean,
did.
like we knew that at the time, like even in 2019 when we were like working on that. But, you know, fast forward 2 years later when we're in 2021.
It's like I would rather
November
fail
2021.
I'd rather fail as LooPS. Yeah, you're right. Being in a studio with Doug, who knows what he's talking about,
but we're like, we need to put our foot down because this is the best version of us.
We'd rather fail as us than succeed being something that someone else wants us to be.
Somebody else's image
in every way, honestly. And you know, in the end of the day, like, hey, if that if that doesn't rub everyone the right way or gives them red flags or stuff like that, then it is what it is, right? But we'd rather be ourselves, and we're always going to be authentically us. We're always authentically going to represent us the best way we possibly can.
And we're both captains of this ship. We will both go down with this ship.
But we're going to do it with integrity. We're going to be kind to people. We're going to treat people the right way, but we're going to do it our way. Yeah. And if our way doesn't work out, that's okay. We're the only ones that suffer for it.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that. We're at peace with that. And that song to me as well, you're right. That's a great point, is Taken Too Soon and Morning Girl, same thing. It was what we could make ourselves. So yeah, that's my list, man. I'm really proud of all those ones. And I appreciate that. Yeah, they bled into yours as usual as well too.
Yeah. So
let's hear your list.
I think before I get into my list too, I want to just touch on, so we've got 10 songs on this album.
11.
Is it 11?
100% 11.
I'm just trying to remember which one we scrapped. Was that song 12?
100%. It was 12. Okay. There's 11 songs.
But so far we've talked about That Won't Do.
Because I had the album in my hand and 11 is taken.
So we've talked about That Won't Do.
Yes,
which is the very first song off of our album.
Yep.
We've talked about One More Story.
We have.
Just now. We talked about Checking Out, which was in the studio that one day.
Yep.
We just talked about Morning Girl.
We did.
A little bit.
Yep.
We talked about Smile.
We did give a background on Smile.
We briefly touched on All For You.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about All For You.
But you kind of gave like a little bit, but we'll get back to that one later. We haven't talked about Let Me yet, or Coast to Coast.
No.
Or Collide.
No.
And then we chatted about Taken Too Soon. So yeah, that's 11 songs. So we talked about half of them so far. So that's cool.
We really have.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, I mean, whatever, if it's 3 months from now and you're listening to it, check it out on Spotify.
Well, and selfishly though, to be honest, like, we do have an album release coming out, and it's on Friday, and it's special, and we're going to play all 11 of these songs, and we're going to give a story for each song. You're going to understand the background on it. So I want to talk about them today. I wanted to be organic within the feel of our top 5. If there's, if we didn't give you a story on Collide, cool. I mean, you still got, come check out the show, right?
Yeah.
Like, come see the album release party.
Absolutely. But I mean, that's the thing. We've got so many cool stories about each one, at least like to us, right? We're the ones who wrote the album. So we know the stories that go on behind the scenes, which is why it's a 2-parter, right?
Yep.
So yeah, into my top 5s, Checking Out was definitely up there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any numbers because I don't want to condense my list that
sure.
That
yeah. There's always
much,
that's
right?
That's why it's no particular order.
Checking Out, that studio day. We chatted about it in the last episode a lot, but it was just one of the coolest days, even as somebody who's not in the studio, in the booth. Like, I was obviously in the studio, but I wasn't in the booth performing.
Yeah.
But it was just such a cool experience, like watching like my teammate, my bandmate, just kind of like succeed and pushing it to the limits. It was just like the coolest thing. And then, I mean, it just transpired into the greatest golf round.
Absolutely.
You know, like we both
100%.
shot better scores in that sense. But yeah, it
was a special day. It unlocked a lot that day, though. It felt
absolutely it did. So yeah, that's definitely up there for me. Another one is that Taken Too Soon story, which we chatted about, I think, in the last episode.
Yeah, we did. Those are the first two.
Where
But you wanted to elaborate a little more.
That was so my side of the story,
from your perspective, because you're the one asking of this, though. So
that's the thing.
Take us. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to lead on this one. So now take us through, in your mind. That's a big ask, dude.
It was tough.
It's a big ask.
Like,
and
that's
you and I have digested this and unpacked this together, how important it was. But let's share it with our listeners.
So we had like the best 9 days in the studio between me performing on guitar and piano and vocals and all this kind of other stuff by that point. And you had already done all of it, like everything. And we were just listening back and just coming up with ideas that we needed moving forward, because we had to go back because we had a gig on that next Sunday. So
we did, yeah.
It was like Friday night and we were just like, all right, we gotta finish up here. Right. Yep. So, it was tough because we listened back to Taken Too Soon because it was the last thing that we did. And like the day before, I'm like, man, I hate to be that guy. Like I can't even explain like what was going on through my head, because I'm like, I've heard Kev hit these notes in other songs and I've heard him perform it in different ways. And where he was singing the song, to everybody who's listening, is at like 85% where you're going to hear it on the album. So I'm not asking for the moon. I'm not like, dude, come on. Like, you're blowing this song. It's like, do you even want this song on the album kind of thing, right?
Not that.
It wasn't that at all. It was I know that there's an extra gear that's going to get you that extra 15%.
Yep.
And it wasn't even like you had that extra 15% in the tank to do it. Like, I knew that you were running on fumes. I knew that it was a tough song, and I know the backstory and the everything that goes into it, and how hard it was for you to record those songs and like that song in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? Because you had like 2 or 3 different takes of that beforehand, at least. And I was still like, man, you're going to absolutely fucking hate me. You are going to hate me so much, because I think that there's another gear that you are able to get to.
Yeah.
And I want you just to try your best to do it. And I know that it's a tough and hard ask. And I remember as soon as I said that, Doug just kind of like turned away. Like, he's just like, all right, cool.
They're going to have to figure this out.
It's like, I hope that nobody throws any punches right now, because he doesn't know the whole story behind the song, but he understands like that it was a big ask.
It's a big ask.
So that was super, super tough. And I hated being that guy. You know, like
but you needed to for us.
It's something that
for me. You needed to do it for me.
Exactly,
because you knew I wouldn't. If I knew I didn't.
It's something
I didn't hit my extra level.
It's something that we chatted on in the last podcast, where it's like, yes, we've had like hard conversations, right? That we've had to have, where it's like, I need you to step up just a little bit more, and I need you to help out, you know. And that goes both ways. It's not always just like me asking you of anything, right? But it's just like finding that extra gear in you, because I know that you have it, right? Yeah. And it's not because I don't think that you're doing enough right now. I think that it's because you can take it up just a little bit extra.
Exactly.
Right? I want you to help out just a little bit more. 100%,
yeah.
So yeah, that was tough. And I remember you going into the booth, and obviously you can hear Kev's point of view in the last episode, but going into the booth and I'm like, Mike, we got to close these blinds. We got to close it, get him into the mood. So the only thing that we could see that was light in the room was the monitor coming from Doug's computer,
which is so cool because it's a big room. Like it was converted, like it's this massive, like bigger than any shed anyone would have. Like it's this huge, cool, separate in the backyard of his house, like this cool, awesome garden studio. Like it's amazing. Exactly. But it's big and it's got a lot of space. So to be that dark and that intimate, like, and like I said, I turned my back to you guys. Yeah. I'm actually curious now. So I want to know, I've never even asked you this, but what was going through your mind as you were hearing it?
So as the song was starting, because Doug's like, John, you need to sit up here right next to me, like while we're going through this.
Which you hadn't done the rest of the time.
No, because I'm just like walking around. I'm trying to get different angles and different whatever.
And he sits in kind of like the pilot seat. Like he's sitting. Anyone that is curious what it even looks like, go through our previous Instagram posts. There's some posts and stories where you can see the layout.
But Doug's like, you need to be up here because you're going to be the one who's talking to him after he's done recording, which Doug is always the first one.
Yeah.
Anytime that we've ever done anything to say anything.
Ever.
Like he will always be the first one to say, we can do it again.
Yeah.
Or, you know
he
what?
knew
Like,
this
that's
was
a good
your
take.
ask, though. This wasn't his ask.
It was me. Exactly. So he's like, cool, John. If you think that he does, then...
And if you don't, you're the one telling him, not me.
Yeah, exactly.
If he needs take 2,
right?
This guy just said, I'm doing one take. He turned his back to us like a child. Turned the lights out.
Yeah.
If you got to tell him we need another take, good luck.
Good luck, buddy. Yeah, but no, he wanted me up there with him, and I remember watching everything kind of go down and listening to like the first few notes, and I'm like, cool, this is gonna happen. Like like he trusts me enough to get into that booth again, which I mean just filled me with emotion, and I'm just like, here we go. Like this is it. And it's not like this is all the cards on the table or anything like that, but it's like this is
sometimes those you gotta nut up or shut up kind of moments, right? And it was kind of like, especially if those first couple notes are happening, you're like, right, you can tell early as a musician, you can hear it early. It's like the first couple notes is like, nope, he's not in it yet. His mind's not in the right place. But if it was in it right away, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I just remember just listening to the whole thing and getting through the song, getting through that first chorus, and I'm like, he's nailing it. Like he's doing exactly what I thought that he could do. Like throughout the first like half of the song and then leading into the second half of the song, and I'm just like, it just keeps on getting better and keeps on getting stronger. So while we're moving forward, and you know, obviously you got to listen to the song because it's absolutely incredible. And something that I've talked about repeatedly on this podcast is about the emotion of the song, which I felt just wasn't quite there when I asked Kev to go into the booth, and I'm like, I need that emotion, right? And I know that that's the toughest thing to ask, because for you to try and take yourself back to when you were writing it or to what you're feeling at any point in time, I'm like, exactly, right? Just
I love my brother. Sebastian is his middle name. I gave my brother's name to him as a middle name as an honor forever. I have the only tattoo I have is on my shoulder, and it's a couple killer whales because I put my brother's ashes out to sea. And it's the date he was born, the date he died, his name, loyalty and family. Like it's the only tattoo I have. So I try to honor him in every way I can, because he never got to live the life that I'm getting a chance to live right now. And but on that note, I mean, when you experience that kind of loss, like the pain is so real. It's hard. You don't want to like relive that kind of moment all the time. Of course. You remember the positive things. You remember what they brought to your life, but you don't sit there. It's hard. 20 years later, it's hard to feel that raw emotion that you feel in the moment. Yeah. The scar builds up over the actual injury, right? And eventually it's just scar tissue. Yeah. But when you're actually singing a song that raw, it's like picking at that scar tissue until it starts to become raw and bleeding again. And that brings you right back to the moment. And it's raw and it's hard. It's very, very tough.
Absolutely.
But I think you feel that in the song. It needed to be done that way. It needed to feel not like a mechanical song, but something raw. Like, what's the song that Ed Sheeran sings for his best friend that passed away? Do you remember?
The new one?
Yeah, Visiting Hours.
Visiting Hours, yeah. It was for... Oh, man.
It was his buddy that he told lots of stories about, like, the wine collection and all that, and how he writes down the stuff. So, case in point, right? There's certain songs like that. Eric Clapton, Tears in Heaven, it's one of his most famous songs. But, like, it's not... Emotional. You don't want to sing those songs all the time at shows. Doesn't matter if the whole world loves them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're tough, right? Yeah. They're tough to sing. And, like, One More Story. It's a song about my dad being with my granddad. It's also, to be honest, Seb feels it's his song, because he's like, in his eyes, he's like, he pictures his dad being old one day, and I want my dad to sing. It's a relatable song. That's the beauty of One More Story. I'm so proud of it. But One More Story I can sing 10,000 times easier than Taken Too Soon. Yeah. We don't even do it at all our shows, because it's a very raw and I feel the pain of the song every time I sing it. Yeah. So the fact that was translated in that recording, and that's all because you trusted me to get back in there. It might be one of the more special moments we've ever experienced as a group. And I think it bonded us forever. If we weren't already like truly like music soulmates, like that seals the deal, a moment like that. Because I think I said it that night, man, as we were driving back, we were both so proud of ourselves. Yeah. And I remember the talk, and you can probably imagine it just like I can. We were turning right onto the street to get to the hotel, and like Costco's on the left-hand side at that intersection.
Yep.
I can visualize where we were when I was like, you know what, man? Thank you for trusting me. Like, I'll never forget that you trusted me to go in there and you believed in me that it was more.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, you were like, thank you for going in there, because nobody else would ever go. Like, how many bands are out there that the other person would still go into that room? And how many bands would the other person believe in them so much they would ask them something that even the producer had to turn around, because he was like, this is awkward.
The producer's
John,
like, honestly, this is too much, John.
He's like,
what are you
John,
asking for?
I knew John as he's a talented musician, but he has balls the size of coconuts asking this guy to go in there. How does he wear pants with his balls so huge?
That's so funny.
So but that, I remember when we were discussing it after, and even like, man, like, that was a special moment for both of us, and I'm so proud that it was on your list as well. Yeah, because it's a special one to me.
I think so, and I think that that's probably why like these like lists are pretty cool, like at least for us, because I mean, like, we can share the same things, but we've also got very different takes on those situations.
Are so different. I don't know what you were thinking when I'm in that room, and you don't know what I'm thinking when I'm in that room. You didn't know that, like, even now I'm telling you the story now, and it's like, you're smiling and laughing as I was like, I intentionally turned my back to you. You're like, whoa, exactly. Okay. It's like, what? Like, no, that was a fuck you to you guys. It was like, I'm gonna do this, but fuck you. I'm not looking at you guys when I'm doing it.
Exactly. Anyway, that was a super cool wrap up of Taken Too Soon, which is next on my list. And then the one after that I've got over here is The Mint.
Oh, yeah, man. Wow. You love that moment, which is amazing. So I'm not knocking it at all. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm considering that a part of the album process, because I felt like that really drove where I wanted the song to go.
Yes.
Right? Like when we played Checking Out, which Checking Out's live on Spotify and Apple Music and whatever else. But there's like the who's in the chorus, right? But like, it's one thing just to like have those there in the studio version, and then it's another thing to have everybody sing that along with you and clap along while we performed it live, which happened at the Mint.
Yeah.
Right? So that was definitely like one of the coolest moments of making the album, because I'm like, man, this is a driving song. This is exactly what you need. This is what you want to play on the radio, like, or on your stereo on a road trip or something like that.
Well, and like you said, it reinforced in your mind what the potential of that song has.
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously it sounded very different when we left the studio. Yes. Even the very first time, even the second time.
Well, it helped us fine tune it, because now you're like, no, I've seen what this song could be when a room, 100 people that are all at an open mic night, that are all there at the end of the day, no matter how much we all do support ourselves. If you're an entertainer, you want to be on that stage, you enjoy your time in the spotlight. We just do. And it's naive to say you don't. And they're all there for themselves or their friends or the people that are there, right?
That they brought or whatever.
Yeah, and for them all to be invested in these two dudes they've never seen before, and clapping along,
it's like
clapping and singing and doing the hoo-hoos for a song they've never heard in their lives
ever.
That's it. It shows you like, this song can transcend, and this song has a power to really
very cool
captivate people quickly.
And I played that,
which translated into the album and made it better, the final version.
We played that with my dad in the crowd.
Yeah, we did.
So I mean, that was just like even cooler of a moment, and
absolutely,
he got to see us kind of like at our peak level, up there on that stage. And I mean, like, it's an open mic, so we only had like 2 songs that we were able to do, and then we had to get off the stage. But I felt like even in that like 10 minutes that we were able to be up there, it was worth noting in the top 5 list.
And we wouldn't even be there if we weren't there for the album. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that one.
Next on my list is Riding Parachute.
Nice.
Riding Parachute. I had to put that on the list because I think that Parachute is probably one of our, if not the best song that we've ever written as kind of like a I don't know, like an upbeat poppy.
It's funny because I know where your head's going in this more than you even conveying it properly in the podcast, because we've had so many heart-to-hearts about writing, and we have strengths, and I think it was an evolution of you as an artist. No different than an evolution of me as an artist early, when we realized, we've talked about this so many times, but it just deserves getting hammered home, that the key is to know your lane and what you're good at, and own that though, and be really good at your part. And when you're a really good team, you can rely on your teammates to carry the weight on the stuff you're not as good at, and you complement each other more than you're just trying to compete for being the best at everything. Yeah. It goes to sports, right? Like, if you're great at, and stick handling and you're really great at feeding the puck, and your other guy's awesome at being in the slot, he's got an amazing wrist shot, work together. Like,
yeah, exactly.
The guy with this wrist shot doesn't need to be the hero that's skating around with the puck the entire, but a lot of times people don't get success because they're trying to do everything really great. Right? Like, instead of being a jack of all, spades or whatever, like, be an ace of one, right? Be the best at the thing you're good at.
Yeah.
And I feel like parachute is something you've talked about with me so many times. You're like, I need to write my own parachute for us. And it's like, so I know the esteem you hold this song in.
Oh yeah.
yourself.
Which I mean, that being said, I mean, like, obviously, like, there's like a writing process that we have in a way that, like, we kind of like have been able to, change up our style from, we chatted about on the last podcast, or the last episode, I guess, part 1.
Yeah.
Where we were chatting about That Won't Do and how we
feeling the need to be like, John, these are your 2 verses and these are my 2 verses. And you don't want to step on each other's toes.
How we started writing, and then writing more throughout the pandemic, and through like writing almost like every week, where we have like something coming out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, whether or not we continue along with it or not, then that's up to us to decide what's worth keeping and what's, worth something coming back to. Absolutely. Maybe 2 years from now or something like that. But yeah, just writing Parachute. I mean, it was right before my music lesson that I was teaching that night. And I'm like, it wasn't like a distraction, but like I was definitely thinking about it throughout the night. I'm like, what's he gonna do with it? Like, that's just me, like, just genuinely curious, because I trust you that much to come up with something cool for these riffs that
let's share the story, because people may not be familiar with what even actually happened with Parachute.
So Parachute is our first single that came out December 31st. Yep. I think that it's like the coolest song because it's a very relatable song, right? It's about, somebody who you're gonna write the lyrics to.
Yeah. So yes, stumbling on your thought.
I'm
here.
like, I didn't write the fucking song.
No. I mean the story of when you're
coming up with it.
Yeah. So you were prepping and you were just playing just
the instrumental
chord progressions.
Part, like came easy because I was just messing around on guitar and just getting ready because I hadn't played it in
and I was doing dishes.
Or so. And yeah, I was just making stuff up, and I'm just trying to get loose and whatever else. And then for whatever reason, you're like, what are you playing?
I'm
like, nothing. I'm just messing around, guy. Yep. And then you're like, well, I'm going to record it because I think that sounds like something.
You're like, I got a lesson here in like 2 minutes. I'm like, cool. Exactly. And I recorded a minute and 30 seconds.
Yep.
Only the last 15 seconds or so end up being what I was playing. Used. Yeah, because it took you a couple seconds.
I'm like, I don't know what I was doing.
And I'm like, okay, no, that's it. And you're like, and you get into it, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then door knocks.
Yeah.
Callie Veller and her mom Jolene, who I knew for
Jake
years as well.
Barking in the background.
2 friends. They've been huge support of us. They're in the album as well, so shout out to them. But yeah, they were here for your music lesson, mm-hmm. So I'm like, cool. So I just sat there at the kitchen table and
started writing.
And when the actual lesson was done, it was like, so yeah, let's get back to this. So this is what I wrote. And
which you had the chorus by that point.
Oh yeah, I had the whole chorus.
You had the chorus, and then you're like, I'm gonna sing it for you. So then you sang it for me, and then we played it once or twice. And then I'm like, sweet, let's record it. Show me the lyrics, and then we'll come back to it tomorrow. Yeah. Right? And then I was like getting like ready to clean up and like whatever else. And then I came back to it, and then I'm like, I got an idea for like the verse, like at least like the chords and the progression and like where things can go. Yeah. So I'm like, what do you think? And then you're like, that sounds awesome. Like,
and then we just sat there and wrote it, and then even Alina was taking pictures, and we literally wrote it in another one of those hour sessions or whatever, hour and a half, and this whole song was done basically. Like it was freaking wicked.
Yeah. So I think that was it's in my top 5 because I remember just that night like it's like it was yesterday. Like I just remember how it all went down, and I remember just playing it over and over and over and over and over again. Like I played that like till my fingers were bleeding, and you're like, dude, you can just record it and just go to bed. And I'm like,
we've done that. We've done it once or twice where you recorded a loop and it just didn't feel the same. You're like, no, I need to play it. You do your thing. And then if anyone, we've mentioned this kind of before, maybe previous episodes, but my writing process is funny because as I think John, it's just so telegraphed now, as I'm dialed in, because I just get lower and lower to the ground. Eventually I'm laying on the physical ground.
Which there's actually pictures of you doing that.
So cool.
Like during that time, and like Alina's taking like videos and whatever else. So yeah, that's
eventually
that's
I'm just
there.
on the ground. So yeah, that was cool. That was a good one, and it was super fun. And yeah, with me as well, like just writing that song. The cool thing that I'll add to this as well on my side of the story was I'll vividly remember, and I mentioned this in episode 1 for sure. I remember feeling that like it was the first time ever when I made a song that I felt like I could hear the song from the future. Like I could hear it. I just didn't know what the exact words were. It was like trying to remember a song you loved when you were a kid and you haven't heard it in like years. And then you listen to it and you're like, okay, I think I remember all the words.
But then you're like, I swear this is a real song.
Yeah. And I was like, I hear this, and I knew it wasn't a song that existed. I knew for a fact I already knew. I didn't even have to look it up. I knew that it didn't exist. The words were my words, but I could hear it. It was almost like there was a rip in the space-time continuum. It was crazy. Yeah. And I felt other stuff. And one more story. I remember hearing like, tell me one more story. I wish I heard them all. I remember that was the first thing that came to my head as you were like playing the,
I know. Yeah.
That was what I heard in my head to that sound. This was different. This was actually like I could hear like if I fall, like I could hear it all.
Yeah.
And some of the words I could hear, and some of them I could be like I couldn't quite hear them, but I heard it all. The music, it sounded like a full song. It sounded like what we came up with, what we made on the album. It was so cool. Yeah. And that's so cool that that was one of your favorites too.
And it was right before we went into the studio.
It was like a week and a bit before the studio.
It was right before. And then Doug's like, are you guys sure that you want this on the album? And it's like, we need it on the album, Doug.
Yeah. This is a no starter.
It's going to be very raw kind of thing.
We haven't done this.
We haven't played it for very long.
It was funny too, because we were like, what's going to be our first single? And we were so proud of the album, but we're like, we don't know what jumps out as the very first single yet.
Yeah.
And then we're like, we found it. The universe gave it to us as Parachute, and it was our first single, and it was a great choice. I'm proud of that. Great choice.
Yeah, which leads me to the last one on my list here, which is November. I had to mention November because
great choice.
When we went in November to the studio, it was our last visit with Doug before getting the masters back and getting everything done and completed, and everybody was happy with it. But the way that we were able to get that done in such like an efficient way over that 16-hour like period was just something that unlocked something else in us.
Oh yeah.
So we needed those other times in the studio to understand that when we went in November, this is what we wanted. We went in with a plan saying this is what we need to change on every single song.
I'm so proud that you're saying this,
and
man.
Every single little thing that we could think of, we went through it with a fine tooth comb.
But we had like 5-6
separately,
hours.
And then,
no, sorry. Hold on. Let's clarify. We did not have 5-6 hours driving. We had like 16 hours.
Oh yeah,
or 17 hours.
We almost
driving
didn't go
because of the fires.
Because of the floods.
Yeah, sorry, the floods, not the fires. Fires was August. Yeah, because of the floods. And there was a window where we could go, and because it was work related for the studio, we got a letter from Doug. All of that, we were allowed to travel through the Princeton Highway, but. Yeah, it was like a 17-hour day. Like we started at 7 a.m. and got in there at like midnight. Legitimately, that's when we got to the hotel at midnight, and we had to go all the way down to Soyuz, down to the border. We had to turn, go all the way there. We got slowed down and stopped with bad directions by Google.
Yeah, going and in Mission, we got held up by traffic.
Yep, and then crazy, yeah, and then
we had to go
the
to
ferry.
like the third like ferry port like in Vancouver.
Got delayed.
The other ones weren't running.
Yep, it was bonkers, and through all of that, we
found a way to get there.
And to your point though, we had a ton of time to go through every song and pick every little thing, and that wasn't us being like, oh, we know what we're doing more than Doug. That was just, I think Doug. I know for a fact. I don't even think. I know there was a pride with Doug.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you're seeing your little, your baby's not running yet or anything like that, but the baby takes his first little steps and you're like, good, right? Like it's ready to kind of, it's not just crawling anymore. And I think honestly, he was like, when I feel that something is needing to be fixed, I will let you guys know.
Yeah.
But other than that, this is your album and I want you guys to make the album that you feel needs to be reflect LooPS. And some of the things we wanted to fine tune, we were all like deer in the headlights, like, oh shucks, our first. And I just think we leveled up. I think we grew as artists over those 3 sessions, countless hours, countless time, a whole half year between June and November, because we didn't force it. We didn't rush everything.
Yeah.
like that 5 months difference was we grew in exponentially in an incredible way. And I'm so proud of that session too. Not even the fact that it was just 16 hours and we were like warriors and we were just machines and we were just, I'm proud of the fact that we weren't forcing anything. We weren't staying in the studio we just had adrenaline and we were like, no man, we're good to go still. If you guys want to stop, take a break, they're like, honestly, we're having fun. We're in a groove here. Why would we stop?
Well, and then that's the thing. I mean, we kind of mentioned it a little bit before, but I mean, in the middle of it, we ended up writing or recording
One More Story
once again. And then we thought that we were going to record it, call her, and I come back at it all tomorrow. But we got it done in, like I said, like half an hour, 45 minutes.
You just keep going, right? And I think all four of us, Mike and Doug included, we all were just kind of like, if anyone at a certain point, once it passed like 11 o'clock, midnight, it was like, you know what? If anybody needs to call it,
Now's
there's
the
no
time.
shame.
Or just say.
You say at any point, like, hey, I'm done, because we don't want anyone to not bring their best. Because Doug was like, the worst thing you can do sometimes is your time isn't productive anymore because you're so tired.
And your ears are tired. Yeah. And you're just going to settle for something.
Exactly. But we were like, honestly, we're okay. And they were like, so are we. And we just,
exactly.
It was cool, man.
We just kept going.
It was rock and roll, dude. Doug himself said it. We were laughing. We were all just drinking like coffees and stuff. I had Jaeger, but we're like, this is rock and roll. Like it was
legit, because we finished around 3 a.m.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. We took a photo. 2:43. I have the photo still. 2:43 a.m. and we'd been going since 9 in the morning or whatever the hell it was. Like it was awesome.
It was tough,
but I'm so proud of that. Like
it was great. It was really,
who we were
really
leaving that studio was so different than the guys we walked in half a year earlier.
Well, that kind of rounds up my top 5, dude.
Cool, man. I absolutely love it. This was so much fun. These were by far never have a top 5 nearly as long as 51 minutes on this one, and then another 20, 30 minutes of mine at the start. So I think at this point we're almost done part 2. I think let's just wrap up with our upcoming week.
Well, we were going to do new music.
Oh, that's right. We have new music. I'm like, so sorry. I got so caught up in top 5.
Before you go off into your little Kevin land there, I'm just going to mention a couple things super quick.
Yes.
So for everybody who's listening, thank you so much for listening.
Of course.
There's 11 songs off of our album. We've talked about That Won't Do, which is the very first song. We talked about Parachute just now. We talked about One More Story. We talked about Checking Out. We talked about Morning Girl. We talked about Smile, which is written for Seb.
Yep.
We briefly touched on All For You.
Yeah, which is also written for Seb.
Which is also written for Seb. I don't know if we're going to go into too much detail about that one right now.
No, I think we'll save some things for the album release. We're going to film the album release too. So we will we'll show like people that aren't actually at the segment where we play all the songs. We're going to film that so that way people can watch it later. Because it's not your fault if you live in Winnipeg or you live in Ontario and you can't be here. Yeah. So we want everyone to see that as well. So if you haven't had a chance, if you don't have a chance to see it live, I promise you'll get a chance to see, and we'll give you the real stories at the album release party.
Let Me is next on the album.
Yep.
Let Me, we haven't talked about today. Also super cool story. Actually a super, super cool story.
Yeah, so we'll share that one.
Coast to Coast is after that, which is a super cool story.
Awesome story. Well. Yeah, absolutely.
Collide. I mean, one of my favorites, honestly, off of the album.
Yeah. That's also a super cool story as well.
It's a super cool story, but it's also the very it was the very first song that we performed at the Vancouver Island Music Fest.
It was, yeah.
Which we don't talk about nearly enough.
No, we don't.
But obviously that's awesome. And then the last one is Taken Too Soon, which we chatted lots about today.
So
that's the full 11-track album.
Yeah.
Comes out Friday on February 25th.
I think what we'll do for this week, because we want both parts to be kind of equal, is normally we have new music and we both bring a song to the table. I think what we're going to do this week together as a unit is we're going to submit our album as the new music choice for the week. So normally, like John, if there's any song you want to kind of share, we can do that. Kind of speaking, on the cuff here, but yeah. I think the key was the top 5 this week. The key was talking about the album.
And sharing stories.
Yeah. And what we're going to do this week for our new music is we're respectfully just going to submit the album of LooPS. We're not going to be able to put it on the Diary of an Indie Band playlist until Friday when they are live on Spotify. So if you're listening to this on Monday and you're like, you know what, I want to go listen to Let Me or anything like that, you can buy the digital version early. Just go to officialloops.com and then you purchase it. It's only $10 and then you can enter the code and listen to it right now. Or wait until Friday. It will. I promise you, by the end of the week, it will be up on the actual Spotify playlist. But
Yeah.
other than that, we're gonna kind of. I think this week we'll just bypass the regular new music segment because we want you guys to go listen to these songs on Friday when they come out. I think that's the best thing.
I think so too. Yeah. The key
is the album, and this is a special episode as it is.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's been a long time working on this and trying to plan it out. So, I mean, we've had to reschedule because of COVID so many times, and venues have had to change and whatever else. So we're grateful to finally have the opportunity to talk about it. So that's why it's split into 2 episodes. But you know what? I think that, everything happens for a reason.
It does.
And this is meant to come out at this time.
This Friday is going to be amazing. I'm humbled to say that I have family coming. My mom's
all
coming.
The way from
my
Ontario.
Sister's coming. My nephew Dylan's coming. It's going to be bonkers awesome. It's so exciting.
It's going to be a wicked night.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
We have a whole bunch of people that have bought tickets already. If you haven't bought tickets yet, please go buy them soon, because truthfully, like, we don't want anyone to be missing out on the show. A bunch of you have reached out to me or John and said, hey, yeah, I think we're going to be there. Get your tickets now.
Yep.
We don't want you to miss out and then show up at the door and then there's no tickets available.
And I think what we can also mention too is we're up to full capacity.
We are.
Which we've chatted the last 2 episodes about being at 50%, but fortunately dancing's allowed.
It is.
Full capacity is allowed and given the A-OK by the venue.
And I promise you, for the last little bit after we go, like, we're going to do some fun covers. We're going to have the energy rocking. Let's finish the night with a high as we play with Jeremy.
Yeah.
We'll dance the night away at the end if we have to.
Yeah.
It's going to be a blast, man. So I think that ties up all this in a nice little bow, because that's honestly,
that's
all that matters this week. It's
all that matters this
release.
week.
My family's coming on Wednesday and Thursday.
We'll be in Kelowna on Saturday. But other than that, you know, that's the number one priority.
Please come out. If you're listening to this and you're close, come on out, because if you're listening to the podcast, I'm going to say, like, we would love to see you there. We want this to be people we recognize. We'll be happy if there's new faces, but
absolutely,
we would
tell us how you found us.
Yeah, we would prefer to have it be a supporter, because it's our album release party.
For sure.
There's always other shows for new faces to interact with. This would be a great one just to kind of, as a thank you to the people that supported us to get to this point. So
for sure.
Yeah, I think that wraps everything up this week, man. An awesome 2-parter, couple hours worth. Hopefully these are too long each one.
Yeah.
And anything else you want to add, man?
Buy your tickets.
Buy your tickets. Go to officialloops.com. You'll find them on our webpage as well as everywhere else.
Download the album when it comes out on Spotify. It's just on our LooPS.
Yeah, before episode 9, it will be out. It will be live. So
yeah, exactly.
All 11 songs. There's already 2 that are on the list. So the whole album is going to be on the Diary of the Indie Band playlist, because that's our official submission, is the 11 songs as our new music. Why would we not mention our album?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So we're nice guys, but we got to take care of ourselves too, and we want to get it out there. So that's our choice. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for tuning into part 1, part 2, and until next time, keep on keeping on, and hopefully we'll see some of your faces at the album release party.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.